Judge!
Hello and welcome back to the Cinema Judge. To all my regulars out there, welcome back. Now, if you're new to the show, let me briefly tell you what we do here at the Cinema Judge. The studios, they send us interviews, clips, behind-the-scenes footage, all that kind of stuff. We put it together, we give it to you, the jury, and you make up your own mind. I'm not going to sit here and yell about Hollywood, yell about characters, actors. I don't care what they do outside of their acting world. Leave that to the professionals. Consider this a movie oasis, a place where you could come and just hear about a movie. They tell you why they made the movie, what they think of it, and then you say, do I want to see this movie or not? Because any movie is somebody's favorite movie. This is how I look at it. We've all walked different paths. We've all had different experiences. That's what makes movies so wonderful. We all have our own interpretations. And simply put, we all want to spend our hard-earned money wisely. Because we all want the same thing. An enjoyable movie experience. Now, speaking of movie experiences, we have the 6th installment of the Scream series. I mean, just think about this. This all started in 1996 with Wes Craven directing, the legendary Wes Craven. Who would have ever thought we'd be on number 6 by now? And it starred Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, Skeet Ulrich, and Drew Barrymore in that just iconic scene that she was in. I mean, that scene alone just sells the movie. And what writer Kevin Williamson did with that script, it turned the whole horror genre on its head. It was self-aware, but it was just sucked you right on in. What an original concept. And that was just what made that movie stand apart. There was trying to be duplicates after it. But what he did with that script was simply incredible. It was wonderful. And a real quick side note on that, on Kevin Williamson, the writer. I didn't know this. The original Scream movie was inspired by a real-life serial killer. I'll explain more about that later. But I was just like, that's really interesting. And another fact about this next movie, Neve Campbell is not in it because she felt she wasn't being respected properly with financial pay. And I'm just stating the facts. I'm not knocking them or her or anybody else. But that's why she wasn't in this particular movie. She felt she was worth more than they were willing to give her. But just put that aside, here's the trailer for Scream 6. Oh, and one more thing. At the very end, there's a train sequence at the end of this thing because they're in New York on Halloween. And on this train, there's so many characters from classic horror movies, from Freddy, Jason, all kinds of characters. So when you look around in that scene, if you see the movie or watch the trailer, look for all the horror classics that they have within the scene. Anyway, here's Scream 6 trailer.
Please help me.
There's a line here, girl. You got a problem here, guy?
I had this secret. There's a darkness inside of me. It followed me here. And it's gonna keep coming for us. We share a certain history. This isn't like any other Ghostface.
What is this place?
A shrine. We've got to lure him in. We execute him.
Hello.
Let's play a game.
You know you're like the 10th guy to try this, right? It never works out for the dipshit in the mask.
Maybe. But there's never been one like me, Gail. I'm something different.
That's why I'm gonna shoot you in the head.
You want me. So let's finish this.
Guys?
Now, that was a trailer for Scream 6. Remember how I was talking about Easter eggs and other characters you see within the film? If you listen to the end of that trailer, don't you hear a slight hint of the Friday the 13th? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just my imagination. Maybe I'm grasping at straws. But I wonder if that's just a little wink and a nod to say, hey, that's another classic. We're our own little animal here. But maybe I'm just totally misguided on that. Now, like I alluded to earlier, the original Scream, written by Kevin Williamson, was inspired by Daniel Rawlings. He went on a rampage in 1990, and then 4 years later, Kevin Williamson was watching the ABC show called Turning Point about the Gainesville Ripper, and that shook him up so much that he wrote the screenplay that would eventually become Scream. If you read up on the story, it's quite fascinating and just rather intense. So it's not like a retelling of it. It just inspired him to write a story in that vein. Anyway, I just found that very cool. You should look it up. Daniel Rawlings. Now, let me just give you the tagline to this film. In the next installment, the survivors of the Ghostface killings leave Woodsboro behind and start a fresh new chapter in New York City. So that's the lowdown. The survivors from the last film head off to New York to start their own life, and voila, things go wildly sideways from there. Now, coming up next, we have some interviews for you. And in this interview sequence, we have 3 people that were interviewed at the same time. They're sitting side by side. So they kind of go one to another, one to another. So instead of interrupting every time somebody just picks up the conversation, this who's in the conversation here. We have the directors, Matt Bettelli-Open, Tyler Gillette, and producer Chad Villela. So they're talking about the original ones from the last film, the core 4 as they call them, and then they talk about the New York situation and just a little bit more about the movie.
In this one, the core 4 was that kind of ingredient for us, where it was like, cool, this really gets to be about these characters, their relationship, how they're dealing with the past, how they're working together to get through this current ordeal. And, you know, just to say it, the actors who play the core 4 have become really close friends of ours. And so watching that relationship between them and with all of us together kind of evolve over the course of both movies is something just really special that I don't think we were expecting, and that I think you feel when you're watching the movie.
The one analogy we always use, that if Scream 5 was the greatest hits, this one is the punk rock B-side of the Scream franchise. And I think we did that, and we brought some action to it and really ramped up the intensity of what's going on within the movie. And I think that's going to make the movie more fun, make the city more prevalent, make you feel like you're in a different place and watching a different Scream, but still getting a genuine Scream movie.
One of the things that was so interesting to us is that we all got really excited about New York. The things that we get excited about as movie lovers when we hear something is in New York. It's got an energy that you just love seeing in movies. And I think one of the things that we did is we wanted to make this a movie that is about people living their lives in New York, not New York.
Not the tourist version.
Yeah, so we were like, this isn't about going to the Statue of Liberty and Empire State Building. This is about people living their lives in a giant city where there's millions of people. And how does that energy affect it, especially in contrast to a small, sleepy suburb like Woodsboro? So I think for us, it was really the excitement of how do we take the energy that we get when we read the script, the energy that we want to put into this movie, and the energy you get just from New York, period, and instill that all into one exciting story.
I love that line, the punk rock B-side to the original Scream, or whatever he said in that line. I just thought how he describes it in his own mind is really, I just love that. Now, coming up next, we're going to have Courtney Cox, who plays Gale Weathers. And she's one of the few that's been in this from the very first one to today. And fresh off her star on the Walk of Fame, this is her talking about how much she loved the script, how scary it was, and just overjoyed that her character survived the last movie. And then she goes into a little bit more about how her character's developed, she started off really brash, then she mellowed out a little bit. Now she's back to, just being a little bit more focused and just driven. This is Courtney Cox.
I loved it from the second I read it. First of all, I was just so happy that I survived Scream 5. The writers are incredible, and it's so scary, and I was so excited that Gale Weathers was back in it. She's evolved so much since the very beginning. Gale was very aggressive and only out for herself, and then you see a softer side of her around Scream 3, and then this particular one, I think she got a bit of her edge back, which was nice. She is relentless. She won't stop, even if she promises she will.
And I would just love to sit down and talk to her one day. She has had such a marvelous career from TV to movies. She'd probably have so many cool stories to tell. And she seems so just normal, for lack of a better word, that you just sit down, have a cup of coffee, whatever it is, and just tell you stories. That'd be just, I don't know, it seems like she'd be so natural and just going, hey, let's talk. Now up next, we're going to hear from Melissa Barrera, who plays Sam Carpenter. She was in the last film, and you might know her from the movie In the Heights from 2021. Now, in this interview, she talks about just being back with everybody again, and how this movie seems so much more bigger, and just how pleased she is to be part of it all, and just how it feels like family. And then she talks a little bit, or she goes quite in depth about her character. And I just love that. I love hearing an actress just really talk about the movie and how much she's a fan of the series. She said, she talks about, I watched it when it first came out when I was a kid. And now here I am. Just that, it sounds like just that heartfelt, I really appreciate being here. It's a great interview.
Oh my God, it's been so fun to be back. It's been chaotic because of COVID. But other than that, it's been a blast. And it's felt, just everything feels bigger. Like it feels like a bigger movie in every sense. And it's cool to be back with the family. She's such a cool character. I was given such a gift coming into this franchise in that way, It's always a gift to be able to join something that you grew up watching. I was a fan of Scream, and I grew up watching the movies and admiring these actors, and then being able to step in and act alongside them is surreal, but then also like having a little part of this story and coming in with a character that is related to one of the OGs is insane. It's incredible. And she's also, I would say, not the typical final girl, And so I enjoy that. I enjoy that darkness, and I enjoy getting to play such a complex character that divides people. Some people are like really into her, and some people are like unsure because they don't know what's gonna happen with her. They don't know if they like her. They don't know if she's gonna turn. Like, it's all of these things that I personally enjoy. I was given a lot of the material, in the script. Sam is written so well, and she has a whole backstory because there's 25 years of movies that she can draw from, and of history of the fandom and how this franchise has grown that belongs to her, that is in her in some way, because her father was the origins of it all. So in a way that gives her a lot of weight, that gives her a lot of like a heavy burden to carry, which already makes her different, like from the start. Most final girls are quote unquote good girls, and Sam is not.
Now, for me, when I hear this interview, it'd be so cool, I think, in my mind anyway, if you've been a fan of a movie and then suddenly you are in one of those movies and you play an offspring of one of the original killers in the movie. That means your character is very complex, dealing with a lot of stuff, not just your typical, just victim running around. There's a lot more going on in the dynamics with the friendship, with everybody around you, because they know all that baggage that you carry with you. I think that would add a lot I think, if you're playing a role. Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from Jenna Ortega. Now, she just exploded on the scene just recently. Well, she's been on the scene for a while, but she really got the whole world's attention when she played Wednesday Addams on the TV series Wednesday. I mean, let's just analyze that for half a second. She was brilliant. I mean, what a performance. She's also been in the movie X. And another really cool side note on this one here, Jenna Ortega is in talks, hasn't committed to it yet, but is in talks to be in the sequel to Beetlejuice. Now, come on. Just picture her in that role of playing the daughter of Winona Ryder. I mean, that just fits perfectly. Let's just hope this works out, because that would be perfect casting. So up next, we're going to hear from her, and she's going to be talking about her character, and then also her relationship with her sister in the movie, and how that's evolved from the last film. And immediately after that, we're going to go back to Melissa, and she's also going to discuss that whole relationship of where it's gone, what is happening, and then how she feels now about being overprotective or not protective, and just the balance that has to happen with these characters when they leave town to go to New York.
The last Scream that we did was probably the greatest time I've ever had on a set. Just truly the most wonderful, sweetest cast, crew. So I think that anytime you get to work with people that you love, you're very, very lucky. I feel very, very fortunate. But then two, it's I came into this job knowing it was just going to be a good time, and it wasn't going to feel like work, which is really, really cool. What I think is really wonderful about the relationship between Tara and Sam in Scream 5 is, well, I view Tara as a very empathetic person. She's very loving, and I think pretty forgiving. I think that the conversation that Sam and Tara has in the hospital is pretty rare for them, and I think that that's really it's really interesting of Tara, considering Sam left her for 5 years, and so they kind of start close, and then they're at odds, and then they're close together again because they've been bonded not only by their sisterhood, but this traumatic experience that they've gone through together. But coming into the second one, time has passed. Yes, of course, Tara loves her sister, and it's been so nice to have her re-enter her life. The only issue is now Sam will not leave her alone for a second. And I think that any teenager kind of understands, or just anyone in general, sometimes you just need your space. Sometimes you're just worn down, and Tara does not have that opportunity. So again, we're kind of going at each other's throats, but a bit more intensely than we were in the last one.
It's so interesting because we end the last movie, very close. Like, I'm going to hold your hand all the way there. And for that, Sam takes that to mean, like, I'm going to hold your hand for life. Like, I left you before, but now I'm not leaving you ever again. And we come in this movie, and they're like sisters, like regular sisters that fight all the time and that are sick of each other. But, like, Sam is the overprotective one that is taking her job, like, way too seriously, and Tara is this girl in college that just wants independence and doesn't want her sister hanging around and like watching her every move. So there's more friction, and Tara also has her little like journey of being in denial and not wanting to deal with that, and choosing to like just move on with her life and not even think about what happened ever again. And Sam is trying to get her to deal with it so that they can heal together, and by the end, they're on the same page. They're like, we have to deal with this. We're going to do this together, and we're going to move forward.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from Courtney Cox, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the story, about those two sisters in the group moving to New York City. And then she talks about her character and how she gets intertwined with this bunch again, but this time she becomes a target. And then right after that, we're going to play, it's not necessarily a scene or anything like that. It's just a mini, almost commercial. But in it kind of sums up this movie a little bit and the tension that they build. Because part of this clip is you see the girls crossing from one building to another with a ladder. And then suddenly behind, boom, Ghostface appears. And then later on in this little mini scene, if you will, they walk in there with Gail into this room, and it's like a shrine to Ghostface. So this is kind of like a mini commercial. It's hard to explain. It's not even necessarily a clip, but it just kind of sets the tone a little bit.
Sam and Tara have moved to New York, and that's where Gail has a morning show. And she hears about Ghostface because of the news, and she had written a book and she wasn't supposed to. She promised she wouldn't, and she gets back involved in their lives. She becomes a part of the group, and she becomes a target for Ghostface.
We're too high up. We can't get down from here. Come on! You're almost here. Behind you!
This isn't like any other Ghostface.
What is this place?
It's a shrine.
Guys?
We've got to lure him in. We execute him.
Come on, mother!
Scream.
It's for you.
Now, in case you've never listened to the show before, this is originally a TV show that I make into a podcast. So if you want to watch these interviews, these clips and featurettes that are in these shows, you could go and watch them on demand whenever you want. So at the end of this show, I'll tell you that address, because sometimes when you hear these clips or interviews, you say, I just don't get it. It's like a lot of stuff going on. Well, sometimes if it makes it easier, you could watch the interviews and then voila. So at the end of the show, I'll give that to you. So in case you're interested in watching the TV version of this. But up next, we're going to go back to the original three that I did in the beginning. The director, the directors, and then the producer. And they're just going to talk a little bit more in depth about this movie.
I think there's just a relentlessness and a kind of rawness and a sort of up all night thing, that we always gravitate towards. We love survive the night movies. We love movies that just kind of start, go, and then when it's over, you kind of exhale and take a deep breath. And that was something that us, Guy, Jamie, William, Paul, we all wanted to like go into this with. There's no off ramps. There's no slowdowns. It's really, it's just a. It's I hate calling movies a ride, but it's a ride. It's you get on and hopefully you really love the characters, and that's what kind of pushes you through it. But I will say the set pieces in this one are the most fun we've had doing set pieces. Yeah. Like this was a new level for us.
I think that this movie finds the four survivors. It takes place shortly after the events of Scream 5, and it finds all of them, I think, struggling to deal with, and in their own unique ways, the events of the last movie. And we loved the idea that that this story was set right on the heels of the previous one, so that we could really explore how each of these characters is navigating or not navigating, refusing to navigate the experience that they had in the past. And it finds them all in a big city, hopefully, surrounded by an energy that will help them move on and deal with all they have to deal with. And of course, Ghostface enters the picture. They realize that, even in a city of millions, they can't run and hide from this thing that's coming for them.
Going from Woodsboro to New York, sometimes, even though Woodsboro is this sleepy, idyllic town where you could be isolated and alone in the woods or on the outskirts of town even, New York, sometimes when you're new to a city like that, you feel alone, even though you're surrounded by millions of people. There are monsters all around you. And I think the Halloween theme that we added to this movie was also inherent of that and super fun. We were able to play with these iconic villains and monsters and have them surround our heroes in just everyday mundane circumstances, just as a way to show that you could be surrounded by monsters. And obviously, not everyone who moves to a city has a masked knife-wielding killer chasing them, but sometimes it could feel like that. It is intimidating, it is big, and it is scary to a certain extent. And I think each of our characters deal with it in their own very specific ways.
And I just love those kind of interviews. They all have such a great grasp on what they wanted to achieve and what they were making. You could always tell somebody when they're a fan of the project or the series or whatever they're taking on. Because let's face it, this series has been along since 1996. And you can just hear it in this way they talk about this film, that how much they are true just fans of it. And it's just, that's what makes a movie even better, because they care about it just as much as the fans care about it. Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from Courtney Cox. And she talks about the idea of this being in New York during Halloween, when Ghostface could be anywhere and everywhere, and you just don't have a clue. And then immediately after that, we're going to have a featurette. Now, in this featurette, there's going to be interviews, clips, all these kind of things. And in this featurette, they're just going to be talking a little bit more about the movie and different aspects of that. But the overall theme of this little featurette is called ruthlessness. That in this particular film, Ghostface he raises the bar to the level of intensity in, some say, gore. So if you're not a gore fan or horror fan, clearly this might not be your particular film to tamper with. But that's what this featurette talks about after you hear from Courtney Cox about being in New York.
New York is a perfect place to have this movie set. Ghostface can hide amongst so many people, and yet he can see you. He's always there to see you, but you don't necessarily know where he is. And especially set around this time of, the Halloween time of year where people are in costumes. It's just genius. I think it's added so much horror to it just by the location.
Please help me! Behind you!
With each film, Ghostface is getting more intense.
It followed me here, and it's gonna keep coming for us.
This Ghostface is the most ruthless and just killing people for killing's sake.
Come on!
The rules have changed. We are continuing to top what came before.
There's never been one like me. I'm something different.
Setting it in New York adds so much horror.
Guys?
Ghostface can hide amongst so many people.
This movie pushes things farther than they've ever been.
We need to fight back.
Ready? I'm ready. Come on, mother!
There's a relentlessness that is unique to this specific Ghostface.
Now, before that featurette, we heard from Courtney Cox talking about this being set in New York. Now, up next, we're going to hear the same kind of discussion from Melissa Barrera about just how this being in New York just changes everything. It just increases the stress and anxiety so much. This is Melissa.
Ghostface always finds a way. In New York, in the chaotic and like bustling city of New York, danger is around every corner. And so I think it makes it that much more suspenseful, because everywhere that they go, at every corner, and in the subway, on the streets, in parks, wherever they are, there's a lot of people, and like anyone can be Ghostface. That's what keeps people coming back to this franchise, that it's always someone different. So it just the city feels more dangerous, I think. Now,
I'm not much of one for on here to be giving away spoilers, and this isn't really necessarily a spoiler. It's just kind of interesting news. Hayden Panettiere played Kirby in a previous Scream movie, and no one knew exactly what had happened to her, but she's back for this one. So you're going to hear a lot from the cast members just talking about how lucky they are to be working with her and happy that she's being here. For example, you're going to hear from Jack Champion, who plays Ethan. Then you hear from Courtney Cox. And then you're going to hear from Hayden herself talking about working with Courtney Cox. And then we're going to go to Melissa and Jenna, both of them talking about just how great it is to have Hayden on this project, and even how different she is in real life compared to her character. And then we go back to Hayden one more time, and she's going to talk about her being from New York and how much she really enjoys that this is taking place in New York City.
Coming from a fan who loved the previous movies to work with Courtney and Hayden, not only are they legends in the Scream universe, but also just in acting in the industry, they're awesome. So it was just really like a pinch me moment to work with them.
I think people will love seeing Kirby again. Hayden is a great actor. I loved seeing her and getting reacquainted with her after so many years. She was a great character. In this she's got such attitude and in a great way. She's funny. I think people will love it. It was great to be on set with Hayden. She's such a nice girl and she's such a talented actor. Yeah, I just had a really good time with her.
Courtney's just so talented and funny and fun. She brings all of those elements to the character, so I can only imagine. I mean, she puts her whole self into it, so I'm sure it's gonna be badass.
Oh my God, she's so great. Hayden is just incredible, and it's really mind-blowing to watch her like turn back into Kirby, and knowing her personally, how she's so different. She's just so good, and it was so fun to have her around and for her to tell us stories of her experience shooting the fourth one, and her being so excited to come back, and such a sweetheart. And you know, Kirby comes back as a fan favorite. Like, Kirby's back because fans love her character. And she gets to like play this, is she, isn't she, like, is she on their side or is she not? And all these like moments of doubt. And I think fans are gonna really love that journey of hers.
I was a huge Kirby fan as well. I watch it, and I was one of those people. I didn't even know that it was a thing online or within the community that, oh, Kirby's still alive. I watch it, and I refuse to believe that she died. So that was pretty nice.
Well, I'm a New Yorker, so I loved that part. But it also brings, it's one thing to be in a small town, which has its own sense of creepiness and, you know, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. But then when you're in a big city, there's a completely different version of there's nowhere to run, there's nowhere to hide. It could be anybody. The killer could be anybody. I mean, it could be you, it could be the person you're standing next to, and it brings, you know, about the opportunity for shock, surprise. I mean, you just really don't know what you're going to see.
Now, joining the cast of Scream 6, we have the incredibly talented Dermot Mulroney. And you remember him probably from My Best Friend's Wedding, Young Guns, the 2022 film Gone in the Night, and when you hear this next interview too from Courtney Cox talking about him, he was also in a few episodes of Friends. So that must be kind of cool for them too, realizing they worked together all that time ago, totally different project. Now here they are today working on this. I don't know how that is for actors or not, but I think it'd be kind of cool. It's like, oh man, remember that? So you're going to hear from Courtney talking about Dermot being here. And then also we're going to hear from Hayden talking about how much she was a fan of his. And like, well, I don't want to have high expectations, but just saying that he just knocked it out of the park. And then after they talk about him, we're going to go to Dermot just talking about this movie.
I worked with Dermot before. He was on Friends, and he's just such a great guy. Really, he brought so much fun to the set. He's a big storyteller. People just are engaged in what he's saying all the time. I don't know, I think he brought a lot of heart to the film. And you know, when you're so honest as an actor, it's just nice to have, it grounds things.
Oh my gosh. You know, I've always been a fan of Dermot. And I just knew, I had no expectations. I just knew that, like, no matter what it was, I was gonna walk in a fan, I'm gonna walk out a fan. But he had me laughing so hard on the first day that I went outside during one of the breaks and somebody wanted to take a picture and I tried to smile and my cheeks were shaking. Like, they were so exercised. I haven't smiled that much in so long. But Dermot is such a multifaceted actor, human being, and he brings all of that to this character.
The starting point for each of these characters, and all the returning actors, Melissa and Jenna and Mason and Jasmin, are incredible in terms of that. And they have a whole movie's worth of character that they build on in this one. So it's amazing to be a part of that. The directors, Matt and Tyler, really brought, you know, why that works so well is because they brought even more truth of character to the roles. Well, I'll add to that in the way that these directors are bringing more, more interesting emotional life to these characters. So obviously, so it means more when they're attacked or in trouble, or brutally hacked up into bits, whichever scene you're referring to.
And I just love hearing interviews when they talk about actors who are there. They're laughing on the set. They're just with you. Because we all get that. We always hear those horror stories about actors or prima donnas going, oh, meet me in my trailer. I'm not coming out here. But it's so nice to hear that somebody like Dermot is just natural and fun. Now, speaking of natural and fun, keeping that tone, moving forward, we're going to hear from Melissa coming up next. And she's going to talk about working with these two directors. Because not only is it hard working just with one director, obviously, but then how do you balance two? Can they get along? Do they say different things? And when you hear Melissa talk, they're just fun people to have on the set. They were like friends. They went out to eat. And it's just really cool to hear that they're there and just making the work environment better. Because when they're happy as actors, it shows in the product. So it's really kind of encouraging to hear that. And immediately after that, we're going to hear from Jenna Ortega. And what she really delves into is this: how this movie has people from all places of the world, like different orientations, color. Everybody's has representation. And again, that's a good thing because it's more realistic. Because you look around the world, it's not just all one group or the other. It's a modge-podge. And I think, that's just really kind of cool. It gives actors and everybody out there hope that I could be in this kind of film and I'm represented. I'm watching this film and, oh, hey, now I feel even more freaked out because it's somebody who looks like me.
It's so funny because Matt and Tyler are not like removed like sometimes directors are. They're like fully part of the group. We hang out all the time. I don't know if it's because it's two of them that they feel like more organized and we can like actually hang out and go out and have dinner. But they're also just like the coolest people, and I think they cherish the time that we have together and that we spend together. And they're friends. It just feels like we're making a movie with friends. Yeah, Matt and Tyler and Chad and William and Jamie and everyone, the creative team is just so good at picking people. I don't know how they do it over Zoom, but they just have this like instinct to pick like the best people for a project. And it's the best people, yes, because they're like talented and they can do act the hell out of a role, but also just like great people to like hang out with.
The incredible thing about what they're doing with this story is, it's kind of insane. They've people of color as the leads, people of color who are surviving, an openly queer woman of color surviving and becoming this staple in the franchise. So important, not only for people watching, but then also just for accuracy of the time and making the film a bit more relatable. And Jasmin is one of the funniest people I know. The love I have for that woman is unbelievable, and she knows it and I know it, but that's definitely one of the stronger relationships that I've built in my lifetime. There's a huge Mexican horror community, which is cool because then they get to see themselves, that feeling. I feel like people don't understand, and guys here are so cool. They took a chance, and I feel really, really lucky, and it also was very, very smart of them.
And that's a very good point. If you want to do better internationally, you better be realistic. Have people from all walks of life represented. Now, it's one thing to be able to impress the younger actors. Not that they're easily or not easily impressed, but up next we're going to hear from Courtney Cox. She's been part of this franchise from the get-go, and she was there with Wes Craven, just the master himself. So going from all these different directors, what it's like to have these new directors that directed these last couple. And it's really cool to hear her talk about them and their process, along with new kind of kills, everything that they've raised the bar with. And then she goes a little bit more into Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven and how these directors are truly fans of them and what they started. And it really does show. And I just love hearing it from Courtney Cox because I think she really does have a passion for this project and an appreciation of who started it and where it's at now. And then we're going to hear from Hayden talking about how these two directors work together, because she's never worked with two before, and how much that experience was really wonderful.
I think that the kills in this movie are, I don't know how the Ghostface's arm didn't fall off. I mean, I've never seen more stabbings, more things. It was unbelievable. And like I said, after the first one, I just had to stop looking because it's crazy. There's more stabbings per person than I've ever seen. And they found some new places to get stabbed, to stab people. You have to make it bigger and better. Of course, people expect that. If you didn't, it would, you have to amp it up every time. And they accomplished that. They did a great job. These films to me are so frightening and gory in a good way. It's so realistic, the way they do the special effects and the stabbings, but I mean, I think that people are gonna go nuts. It's so much fun, and to see this with an audience and the build and the excitement and the laughter. Matt and Tyler, our directors, they're huge fans of Wes. I mean, I think Wes was a huge inspiration to them just in their directing career alone. They are so hip, they're so visual, they're such great people, they're so open, and yet they know exactly what they want. Every time, that last time and then this time, they just keep elevating it. And they don't ride on their laurels of last time it was such a great film. They amped it up in every way, and the writers did, and it's just, I think they're incredible. One of the things that I think Kevin Williamson and of course Wes Craven brought to this franchise, and what they did was they created a horror film that, besides the the meta and going and telling us what we shouldn't do in a horror film and then we do it, everything was played realistically. So it's not campy. While it's really funny, it's played seriously. So I just think what they did with the comedy and then the horror, but you actually are invested in the characters more than, you're not laughing at them. You really don't want them to go because they're so engaging. And I think what Wes created is incredible. And then the guys, they just ran with it and made it up to date, more frightening. Everything that Wes would have done, wanted to have done, and the guys did it.
I've never been directed by two directors, but their transition between the two of them is so smooth. They know how to work together so well, and they've just brought us along for the ride.
And you can just hear the camaraderie, the friendship, just how much I think they really enjoyed working on this project together. Now, up next, we're going to hear from the directors and the producers again, just talking about how excited they are to just get this out there so people could see it.
We're just so excited for it to be released, honestly. Yeah. I think that we have like a feeling and energy around this one. I think some of it is just the pace that it's all happened in.
It's very fast.
But I think we really love and are so proud of how it turned out and the work that everybody has done. It feels like, just feels like it's something really special at work in it. We can't wait to share it with everybody.
It just makes me wonder sometimes, how many more can they make? And hey, I'm not against it. As long as you keep keeping it fresh and you can hear the enthusiasm, they still bring us something special. But, in the back of your head, you're like, as long as people keep showing up, buying tickets and watching it, renting it, whatever they're doing, they're going to keep, putting them out. But at least they're still keeping it entertaining and fun. Because, how some movies have gotten, they run their course way past their deservingly time. Like, even just for example, I loved the Friday the 13th franchise. I mean, that was gold to me, that and Halloween. And in some aspect, Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one was just brilliant. And then it just went downhill fast from there. Just Freddy started making jokes. It was just one-liners. It's like, that's not scary. This is just stupid. If they kept it raw and gritty like the first one, that would have been brilliant. But they went the comedy route almost. You're like, okay, now it's just one-liners. Okay, whatever. But I just hope one day, because it's been in and out of development forever with Friday the 13th, I hope they come back out with a new one, but keep it raw and gritty like the first couple. Because once they got the Jason X where he's in space, again, I'm not saying it wasn't entertaining because you had to laugh at it. You're like, really? Jason in space? Come on! But hey, what do you do? People keep going. They're going to put out something. How do you raise the bar? Well, send them to space. So far, at least with these Scream movies, they haven't jumped the shark and taken him to space and all that kind of jazz. But yeah, anyway, it was just a thought I was having. How far will this series go? Maybe it'll go on and on for years to come. Who knows? But I hope you did enjoy our in-depth look at Scream 6. Now, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, any way to improve the show, let me know. cinemajudge@hotmail.com, or go to Instagram, The Cinema Judge, or I'm on YouTube and several other platforms, from Flipboard to all those other ones. I can't think of off the top of my head. But if you're ever wanting to ask me a question, feel free, because I can't grow if I don't know. So I appreciate any input you have for me, because I want to have you keep coming back. So feel free, drop me a line, and I won't harass you. I won't be emailing you back if you don't want me to. But if you want to, let me know what I'm doing right or wrong. Now, as I alluded to earlier in the show, this is always a TV version first, and then I convert it into this podcast. Now, if you want to watch this anytime you want on demand, where you can actually see the interviews and the featurettes, go to bit.ly/cinemajudge. Or if you go to Bloomington, Minnesota's public access TV page, you can just type in Cinema Judge there, and then several shows will show up to watch at your leisure. But now you know what time it is. It's one of my favorite parts of this show, is where I thank you, the listeners, for listening to the last episode. For all you listeners all over the world, I hope my voice finds you well. Whether you're listening to this at home, driving to work, on your break, or whenever you're doing it. Whenever, wherever, or whatever you're doing, this is for you. To all my listeners from the United States, Australia, Poland, Germany, South Korea, Uzbekistan. I mean, it's so incredible. All you guys from around the world taking time to listen to this show, I salute you. It makes me just jump for joy, and I'm not even kidding about that. Minneapolis, Minnesota, Martinsville, Pennsylvania, Hyde Park, Vermont, Vargas, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, Melbourne, Victoria, Littleton, Colorado, Holyoke, Mass, Stevens Ranch, California, or Stevenson Ranch, California. Sorry about that, California. And my goodness, oh man, this one, BYDGOSZCZ. And in the next words after that, I have no idea. But truly, taking time out of your life to listen to this, thank you. Clear Lake, Wisconsin, Frankfurt AM Maine Hess, always consistent. I salute you guys. Thank you so very much. Saha Gu Busan, is that it? Woodbury, Minnesota. Thank you so much, Woodbury. Taskent. Obviously, that's a mispronunciation, and that's just to name a few of you guys. But every one of you who took time out of your life to listen to this show, don't think for 1 second. I just don't blow by it and go, yeah, whatever. I'm like, oh, sweet. Somebody listened. And I can't even tell you how much I'm grateful for that. So if you do like the show, please share it with friends or family, or like it, or whatever you feel is appropriate. I don't want to make you do anything you don't want to do. But I truly am grateful for you taking time to listen to the show. I love it. And just another side note, if you listen to some of the back catalog of the shows and you're saying, hey, buddy, why didn't you mention me? Well, that stuff's almost impossible to find out who's the most recent one who listened to an episode. It's just a lot easier when I click on this one little button that says last episode, and I could kind of read them all there. But if I just go back 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes, I have no idea which one is new, because it's been so long since I looked at it, and I'd have to take a screenshot of it, blah, 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 blah. But don't think I don't love seeing that, because I see that. A lot of times a movie will come out maybe on demand or ready to rent, and then you want to listen to the show. That's totally cool, and I appreciate that. So I don't want you to think I'm being a putz by not thanking you. It's impossible to try to figure that out. So I always just reserve it just for people who listen to the last episode, just to be clear and clarify and transparent with you. But now it's time for the bourbon shout out. Now this week, I'm going to thank, well, I kind of mentioned a couple episodes ago about Horizon Worlds on the MetaQuest doohickey thing for Horizon Worlds. If you have access to a Oculus or MetaQuest, Oculus 2 or whatever device you have, check out Horizon Worlds. Those guys are so talented. Because it's not just companies that make worlds. People like you and me can make a world. You can go in there, start designing your own thing, do darts, whatever you want to do, shoot hoops, doesn't matter. Zero gravity. These guys are so talented, and you could actually talk to them. They show up in their own little worlds, and you talk to them. Just like I mentioned a couple weeks back, Ace of Clubs by Mikey Ace. That's a laser tag place. It's just brilliant. And the guy's super nice. He's there to talk to you if you want to, but he also has a place called Rooftop After Party. And there you could play instruments, and you could request songs. You could shoot hoops, all these other kind of things. But also there's another place called BBC British Bar Club, and it was created by Stock Trader 211. That's Stock Trader 211. But check out his place, BBC British Bar and Club. It is just a blast. Fun people from all over the world. That's what I like about it. It's not just people down the block. I mean, it could be, but it's people from different time zones all across the world. And you just say, hey, what's going on with you? Oh, I'm going to work. Oh, yeah, well, I'm going to bed. Things like that. So to all those Horizon Worlds creators, Stock Trader 211, and Mikey Ace, all you guys, cheers. But now, it's the music section. Like you know, this is first a TV version. So when I'm making a TV version, I don't have to worry about any kind of sound or anything. I'm in my happy place, editing the show, and just cranking tunes in the background. What more could a boy possibly want? But when I was making this one, I was proud of myself. I had a little bit more variety this time around. I first started off with The Very Best of Chicago, Only the Beginning. That's a great, I think it's like a double album, or it would have been a double album compared to today, where it's just it's when you do it online, or not online, but on a doohickey thing, it's just all one. But it is a fantastic greatest hits. If you've never really done Chicago, you can't go wrong with The Very Best of Chicago, Only the Beginning. And then after that, I was still feeling, hey, I need something a little fancy today. So then I threw on some Dean Martin. I mean, come on. What more do you want? Dino, come on. I just every once in a while I get in the mood for Dean Martin, and I just throw him down because he was just awesome. And then I went even further back, and I threw down some Mozart. Man, his stuff, just mind-blowing. I mean, what would the world be like if somebody like Mozart was alive today with the technology and everything at his fingertips? What kind of magic would somebody like that make today? It just blows your mind. But that was the case. I threw down some Mozart just because he's the man. Well, that is it. My glass awaits, so cheers to you and to the movies. So until next time, be well, be good, and I'm gone. I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening to The Cinema Judge.